the same some of the load balancing just to provide a high availability for our work applications. So that is application gateway. Okay, yesterday we discussed about the load balancer. So both internal and external load balancer and what are the use cases and certain additional features. So today let's discuss about application gateway. So let's say if at all if you wanted to provide a high availability for your applications and additional security or a firewall so that we can achieve it okay using application gateway. So even in interviews also, okay, let's say if they ask you like how do you provide a high availability for your workloads and how do you make sure that okay your application is secured. So that time okay we can apply this particular application gateway and you can talk about this. So let me walk you through what exactly this application gateway is about. So application gateway is also one of the load balancer and which is operating on a OSI layer 7. Okay, yesterday I have shown you certain OSI layers, right? So whereas like let me show it again. Okay, and let me open a new one here. Yeah. So yesterday load balancer was working on a OSI layer 4, that is like a TCP and UDP. But whereas coming to the application gateway, will be working on a OSI layer 7. Okay, that is human computer interaction layer where applications can access the network services. Okay, so let me come back here. And same as like a load balancer, even application gateway also okay having a similar set of components, so which includes front end IP configuration. That means yesterday if you remember, even for load balancer also we had a front end IP. Okay, if at all if I wanted to access my server or maybe my application hosted on this particular servers which is added as a backend pool, and I was accessing those applications by using the front end IP. Same as here with application gateway also, we'll be having a front end IP and backend server pool. Okay, so same as like a load balancer. Here also we have a backend server pool. But here in addition, yesterday for the load balancers, we were able to add as a backend pool only VMs or VMSs, right? But here, in addition to that, we can also add VMs, VMSs, web apps, or any IP or FQDNs. That is fully qualified domain names. Okay, so we'll show you that. Okay, so how we can add those IPs and all other stuff. So here yesterday if you remember, to distribute the load to the servers, okay, which are added as a backend pool, yesterday we have created a certain load balancing rules, right? Health probe and load balancing rules. But here we'll be creating certain listeners. Okay, here you could see, okay, we'll be creating the listeners. And this listeners includes front end port, like when you access this particular IP and which port okay this particular server is, this particular application is up and running. Okay, yesterday as a demo we have taken as a port number as 80. And HTTP protocols, that is what a protocol, whether it is HTTP connection or HTTPS connection, and SSL certificates. So let's say in case if it is a HTTPS connection, we have to apply the SSL certificate. SSL certificate is nothing but, so this is the certificate. Okay, when you go to any portal and when you see a lock symbol, right, and that means you have a certificate for the website, and this particular site is secured site. And you could see the site. This particular certificate is issued to portal.azure.com and issued by Microsoft, and it is valid till so and so date. Okay, if you go to the details, okay, you can see in details about the certificate. Okay, so those kind of certificates, okay, so we can apply, okay, so on a application gateway level itself, okay, if you are going with the protocol called HTTPS. And as per the listener, okay, we'll also be creating certain rules, and we can also enable a WAF, that is web application firewall. Okay, on application gateway level, when you say WAF, okay, it is nothing but a web application firewall. That means, so here on a load balance application gateway level itself, we can also have a additional security, that is additional firewall. Okay, enabling this particular WAF, okay, so we can protect your web application also. Okay, so these are the high level components which are included. Okay, so in the application gateway, I'm repeating once again, same as like a load balancer, will be having a front end IP. If at all if you wanted to access your application, which has hosted as a backend pool servers will be accessing them using the private front-end IP of the application gateway. And we'll also be adding servers as a backend pool. So here as a backend pool we can add the VMs, VMSs, public IPs, or maybe web apps also. We have seen creating a web apps, and we have hosted certain sample .NET application, if you remember, day before yesterday. So we can add web apps also as a backend pool here. Okay, so to route the traffic, whenever I enter the IP address of this particular applications, okay, so to route the traffic, so we can create the listener and certain rules. So this is a high level process end to end. Okay, so try to remember this. This is also very important when you say in an interviews. Okay, they might ask you, so walk me through the step by step process, okay, for creating an application gateway. Okay, you have to talk about these. So we'll show you a demo for this now. In addition to that, yeah, so let me quickly walk about certain things here. So here we have a WAF, that is web application firewall, so which provides a protection for the backend server pool workloads. That means whatever you add it here, right, as a backend pool like a VMs or maybe web apps, whatever, it will provide additional security, okay, against common cyber threats like a SQL injection or a cross-site scripting or anything. Okay, it uses certain this particular rules like a OWASP rules, and it allows disabling the rules that results in false positive. Okay, in addition, okay, it will provide a high level security for your web applications. And moving ahead, same as like yesterday, here we'll be creating a certain health probes. Okay, so these health probes and their intervals, okay, could be like this. Okay, we'll show you a demo for this. And moving ahead, okay, so these are the different sizes we have, like these are the SKUs, I would say: small, medium, and large. So whereas when you go with a small, this is majorly for the dev and test environments. Okay, so when you go with a large, okay, probably it could be like a prod environments. Okay, so when you go with this, okay, these could be the average backend page response time. Okay, how fast, okay, the response will be. Okay, so in case of small, in case of medium, in case of large. And path based. So the major advantage of this particular application gateway is we can route the traffic on a path basis. Okay, this is very important and major difference between load balancer and application gateway. So here what happens is we can add multiple servers as a backend pool here. Okay, let's say if I have any website called contoso.com. Okay, so whenever I try to access this particular website, okay, I can route the traffic based on a contoso.com/images, contoso.com/videos. Okay, so by default, okay, when I say contoso.com/images, by default traffic will be routed back to this particular backend pool. And when I say contoso.com/videos, the by default, okay, traffic will be routed back to this particular backend pool. So it will see, when I say traffic slash videos, traffic will not go to the images backend pool server, and it will not wait for the response. By default, okay, it will route it back to this particular backend pool. So this is the major advantage of this particular application gateway, whereas we can route the traffic on a path basis. That means, okay, we can have a separate path, contoso.com/images, contoso.com/video, something like that. And here is the one of the best example. So this is very important, and this is the prime major difference between load balancer and application gateway. Okay, and we can also have a multi-site hosting. That means we can add a multiple applications, add as a backend pool. And let's say here, okay, on these two servers, okay, I have hosted one website, that let's say abcd.com, and here I have hosted one more. Okay, so that is like let's say it is like a, here as we see here, it is like a contoso.com, it is something like a fabricam.com. Okay, so we can add a multiple backend pools for the multiple application, and according to that, okay, we can create the listeners. Okay, according to that, okay, we can also create the front end IP configuration also. Okay, you can see it here, it is allowing the multi-site hosting, so allows multiple websites on the same application gateway instance, so each with its own backend pool. That means, so contoso.com front end IP having its own backend pool, and whereas fabricam.com having its own backend pool, and up to total 20 websites. That means as a backend pool, we can add up to 20 websites here. Okay, that is the limitations here. So for implementing these, okay, we needed two backend pools. That is like a one backend pool for the Contoso.com website, one backend pool for the Fabricam website, and we also need to create a two listeners. So here you could see. So to route the traffic directly to this particular Contoso server pool, we need to have a one listener, same as with the other one. Same with listeners as well as rules, and arrange the rules in the intended order, and the rules are processed in order which they are listened. Okay, so this is something about high level about the multi-site hosting. And moving ahead, it will also give you the secure socket layer offload. Okay, so when I say secure socket offload means, okay, so provides SSL termination at the gateway. Okay, so if at all if you wanted to, let's say, on a front end, if you're accessing the website on a HTTPS, and it will by default, okay, route the traffic to the HTTPS also. Okay, so we can do the SSL termination. Okay, that can be possible, okay, using this particular application gateway. Okay, you could see here it will eliminate the performance impact of decryption on the backend pool VMs, and request uploading the certificates and binding it to the appropriate listener. Okay, so moving ahead, okay, so we'll have demos all of these. And redirection and session affinity. Okay, so redirection and session affinity, okay, that we can have, okay, we will be calling it a sticky sessions, okay, we'll be creating it. Let's say this is majorly useful in a scenarios, whereas let's say I have a website, okay, which I'm already accessing, and as a backend pool, let's say I'll go update. Okay, so let me take this as an example. Let's say I'm a user. Okay, I'm accessing the website, and this website has certain form filling. Okay, I'm filling a form for submitting certain request. So all of a sudden, when I initially try to access this particular website, my request was routed back to the first VM. Okay, and all of a sudden, okay, so this VM went down. Okay, so by default my traffic should be routing to the second VM, and whatever the data that I'm filling, let's say I have like a 700 columns to fill the data, and I'm almost done with the 90 columns, and another 10 columns if I fill, my request form will be over. And in that time, okay, the server went down, and my request by default has to route this particular VM2, and at the same time whatever the cache that I had, okay, for filling the form has to be displayed. So to achieve this, okay, we can have this particular what is this session affinity. Okay, we call it as sticky sessions. And to achieve this, okay, we also use the certain caches, like we can configure the redis cache, okay, to avoid those such a scenarios. Okay, so here you could see, okay, so redirection protocols, okay, typically from HTTP to HTTPS, that we can achieve it using this particular session affinity, and path-based direction with this particular wildcard letters, and a redirection to the external sites as well. And the session affinity could be like a cookie based and directs the traffic to the same backend pool VM. So this is the scenario which I have explained about the session affinity. So whereas, okay, when you're trying to access certain server, and all of a sudden it will down, and your traffic will be routed back to the same or another server with the same cookies whatever you are doing. Okay, even on a Google page also, let's say if I open my browser, all of a sudden if my system crashes, and if I close this particular thing, and if I do restart, whenever you open a Google Chrome again, sometimes it will ask you to restore your session, right? So that is what the cookies about, cache about. And moreover, let's say every time I'm logging to the website, to this particular portal.azure.com. So whenever I say portal.azure.com portal, by default, okay, this will be autofilled. That means, okay, this particular data will be there as a in the form of cache on my browser. So this is how, okay, so here also it will be stored in the cache that is cookies based. Okay, so which will be useful for the session affinity. Okay, so let me go ahead and have a look about the application gateway. Okay, how we can create the application gateway and all other stuff. Okay, so here I can go to the portal, and I can just type application gateway, and here you could see this is an application gateway, and at this moment I do not have any application gateways here. Okay, so here you could see certain definition here. Application gateway gives you application level routing and a load balancing services that let you build, scale, and highly available web front end on Azure. Okay, so this is a major advantage of creating an application gateway. Let me quickly create an application gateway. So here you could see this is very important, the steps, okay, for creating the certain resources, majorly application gateway. So I have seen many interviews, okay, they will ask you, can you walk me through the steps, okay, for creating an application gateway. So you need to talk about these steps. Let's say here, okay, I'm going to choose the same resource group what I had yesterday. So that is load balancer RJ, and this is hosted in a Southeast Asia. So let me go ahead and choose the same region, that is Southeast Asia. So here as an application gateway name, let's say I'll name it as a demo application gateway 01. Okay, and I'm hosting in a Southeast Asia. And coming to the tier, okay, so here we have a different tiers, that is pricing tiers. We have a standard and version standard version 2, and WAF, that is web application firewall. If at all if you wanted to enable a firewall for your web application, you can go ahead and choose it. So for now I'm just going with the defaults, that is the standard pricing. And if at all if you wanted to see in detail the differences, you can go to this particular document. Okay. Okay, so how the traffic will be routed? Okay, you can see this particular application gateway can be used, okay, for the routing the traffic to the AKS clusters, VMSs, that is a virtual machine scale set, to the web app, and for your on-premises also. Let's say if you have hosted any application on your on-premises data center, we can route the traffic to the on-premises web applications also. Okay, so this keyword, okay, here they are using, okay, just to upload the certificates on the application gateway level. Okay, so typically we discussed about the key vault, right? So whereas we'll be storing the certificates and certain keys. So to whenever we are accessing this particular application gateway, and if it is a HTTPS traffic, that is secure traffic, so you can you have to upload the certificate directly from the key vault. Okay, so you can see certain additional things here. So let me come back here for now and enable auto scaling. Okay, so I'm going with the default. So when I say auto scaling, okay, by default depends on the load. Okay, it will increase the number of instance count and decrease the number of instance count. Okay, if I say no, okay, by default it will take as a 2. Okay, for distributing the load. Okay, so for now let's go with the NAS. And this also support the availability zone, okay, in case of standard version 2. If you go with the standard version, okay, I think we'll not be having any availability zones. Okay, so let me go out with a standard only here. And okay, so here you could see what exactly this one. Okay, HTTP protocol supports is available to client that connects to application gateway listener only. The communication to the backend server pool is either HTTP or 1.1 by default. Okay, so this particular thing is not supported. Okay, let's go with the default here. And here I need to choose a network. And let's say by default, okay, whenever you see an Azure portal something called gateway, for each and every gateway we should have a separate subnet. Okay, so here also it is asking you to create a separate subnet for it. Subnet must be only have a application gateway. So let me configure a separate subnet for this now. Okay, let me click on subnet. And this for this application gateway we can give any name. Okay, there is no specific name, so I would say application gateway subnet. And let me click on save. So always remember, even to create an application gateway also we need a separate subnet. Okay, so here you could see now I can choose the application gateway subnet. Okay, so these are the pretty much basic details, okay, that I have given. Okay, the application gateway name and the region and a certain standard pricing types, and a virtual network under which, okay, so I'm routing the topic. Okay, here if you go here, okay, in this entire network, okay, so I will be this is the entire network. Okay, under this, okay, I'm putting a application gateway, and whatever the resources I have on that particular network, okay, I will be routing the topic. So let me go to the front end. So here, okay, as a front end, okay, so I'll be configuring, let's say, yeah, So here as a front end, okay, I'll be configuring the public IP, or else I can do the private IP and I can do the both also. Okay, so let me do a public IP for now. Okay, so let me create a new, and here I would say demo application gateway. Okay, so public IP, I would say pub IP. Okay, and at the end let me give the suffix as a 01 and let me click on OK. So now it is going to create a new front end IP. So whenever I try to access the servers which are hosted as a backend pool, I'll be using this particular public IP. And let me go to the backend pool. So here when I click on add backend pool, so it will ask you certain name for the particular backend pool. I'll just name it as a BP as a backend pool. And here you could see as a backend pool as a target type, here it is allowing me to choose IP address or FQDN or a virtual machine or a VMSS or app service, that is web apps which we have discussed. As a backend pool, here we can add these many things. But whereas in case of load balancer, it is allowing you only to choose VMSS or a VM, only these two. We have extra these two in case of application gateway. So for now, since we have a VMs, okay, let me go ahead and choose the VMs here. So when I choose the virtual machine, since I am deploying this particular application gateway on a same network, so it will display me the list of VMs present on the particular specific network. Okay, so these are the two VMs that are have okay in the particular network. So let me go to the virtual machines again and let me choose the second VM also. Okay, I'm done with it. Let me click on add. I have a question here. No AKS backend for application gateway. Yeah, that will check. Vashi, I think okay here. Okay, as per the document, okay, they have mentioned AKS also. So so when you say AKS, right? Okay, sometimes what we can do is, so we can also give this particular FQDN. Okay, let me come back here. Okay, let's say I'll go to the BP. So if at all if you do not have a VM or a VMS or something, okay, we can go for the IP whatever the FQDN we have for the AKS. Okay, we can pass it also here. Instead of virtual machine here, whatever the IP we have for the virtual machines, we can pass the IP also. here, which will work. Okay, maybe in case of AKS, I think okay, we can provide the IP or a FQDN. Okay, so let me go to the. This is the Sunpin, like we have configure the front end IP and we have added as a backend pools as well. And if I go to the configuration here, I need to add the listeners. Okay, if you see here, I have added a front end public IP. So this is the front end IP, that is demo application gateway. public IP I have given, and as a backend pool I have created a backend pool called BP, and I have added both of my VMs. And in between here I need to create the listener now. So let me click on add a routing rule. Okay, so here, okay, so I'm configuring the listener and certain rules. So let's say I'll name it as a application gateway listener, and this listener name I'll just name it as a this is a rule, right? Okay, let's say I will name it as a rule, and this particular listener name I'll name it as a application gateway listener. Okay, and as a front end IP, okay, so we'll be using a public IP, and this public IP, okay, will be giving the protocol as HTTP. And when you say HTTPS, okay, by default it will ask you to upload a certificate. So this certificate, okay, we need to browse it from the Key Vault. Okay, so if you have it on your local system you can do it, or else if you wanted to do it from a Key Vault, okay, so we can do it, okay, by creating a certain MSI, that is Microsoft managed instance or something, okay, which will be doing on a AD level. So for now, let me go with the default as HTTP, and the port number for the HTTP protocol is 80. And you can see the listener type. Okay, we discussed, right? Okay, we can do for the multi-site also. Let's say, whereas whenever you're adding a multiple backend pools as a backend, multiple applications as a backend pool, we can go with the multi-site, and there you can give the host names. Okay, so for now, I'm just going with the default, and at the same time, I can also need to add the backend target. Okay, so here if I go to the backend target, okay, here it is asking backend target as a backend pool or a redirection. Okay, so I just wanted to target the request to the backend pool, which I have added as a BP, and backend pool type it is a BP, and target, okay, let's say here, okay, so we just a second, I'm just confusing. Type is a backend, that is BP, and here I need to add the HTTP settings. So under this HTTP settings, let's say then I would say application gateway HTTP. And here, okay, so we'll be checking, okay, on which protocol, okay, we are routing the traffic to the backend pool. Let's say if it is like a HTTPS, okay, we need to put the HTTPS, and again here we need to apply the certificate. Okay, so since it is a HTTP, we do not require any certificate. And here you could see we can add additional settings here, like a cookie based affinity. I told you one scenario, right? If at all if you wanted to enable it, okay, we can just have it enabled and you can test it. Okay, so we can enable this particular cookie based affinity, and at the same time, okay, so we could see connection draining. Okay, so if you wanted to see what exactly this particular thing, connection draining helps gracefully remove backend pool member during planned service updates. So when this feature is enabled, deregistration instances of backend pool won't receive new request. Okay, so whenever any upgrades are happening, so that time, okay, so by enabling this, okay, will from the user end, okay, by this particular backend pool will not get any API calls or any request. Okay, so by default I'm going with the defaults. If I enable it, okay, so it will ask you to drain timeout, okay, for performing the updates. Okay, how much time you need. Okay, you can just this is in seconds. Here you could see. Okay, so let me go with the disabled here for now. And request timeout, let's say for every 20 seconds, if the request is timed out, by default, okay, it will route the traffic to the another server. Okay, if at all if you wanted to override any backend path, you can give the backend path here. In addition to that, okay, so here, okay, we have like so override the new host name. Let's say if I give, okay, whereas here, okay, I can give the certain path names, okay, to route the on a path basis, to route the traffic on a path basis. Okay, here we can provide. Okay, for now I'm just going with the default, here it is, and let me click it and add. I'm done with the creating a listener, and I have created certain backend rules. And yeah, so in addition to that, okay, here we need to configure the path basis routing. Okay, so at this moment I do not have any path basis routing, so let me go ahead and click on add. So here is these three concepts which are very important: front-end IP, backend pool, and creating a listener and certain rules while creating a application gateway. So let me go to the tags. So here you can give any one of the tags, and you can do review and create. So once it is done, okay, you can go ahead and click on create. So for creating this particular application gateway also might take 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so in the meantime, okay, so what I will do is, okay, let me go through the documentation here, and this is the application gateway documentation. Okay, so here you could see certain overview what exactly this particular application gateway is about. Okay, so this is what, okay, we are doing now. So let's say this is the application gateway which I'm configuring, and I can add a multiple backend pool servers. And here, okay, so we can route the traffic on a path basis, like a slash images. Okay, it will be routed back to this particular server pool, same as with the videos. Okay, so you can see additional features of this particular gateway and certain pricing tiles. And if there are any new updates related to this, okay, you can go through this particular Microsoft document. Okay, I always recommend Microsoft document because if there are any changes, okay, they will be updating here itself. Okay, so even going forward also, I strongly recommend you to go through the Microsoft docs itself. In addition to that, let's say if I go to the quick start, okay, here I could see the steps, okay, how to create a application gateway on a Azure portal. So this is what we have done just now, right? So you can see the step by steps, okay, configuring the prompt and IP and the backend tab, what are all we can add, and configuring the listeners, how what are all we can do the create. Okay, so you can just later, okay, for showing a certain demo, okay, they are creating a virtual machine and they are installing the IAS for testing, right? And they are trying to route the traffic to this particular backend pools. Okay, they are taking the front public IP of this particular application gateway, and when they try to use, okay, so you could see here the traffic is routed back to the VM1 and VM2 respectively. And once you're done with this, okay, you can just clean up the resources. Better you can once you're done with the practice with the application gateway also, better you can do delete this particular application gateway. And if at all if you wanted to perform the same thing using PowerShell, yeah, okay, you can go to the PowerShell guide here. So how to create a application gateway and how to create the VMs and the rest of the stuff. I want you to practice with this also, because which is very important. Okay, so if I wanted to create a two virtual machines at once, okay, using this particular PowerShell, I can easily do it. Okay, so and in addition, okay, they are also enabling the extension call, that is IAS by default here itself. Same with, okay, we can do with the CLI. Okay, and if you go to the additional tutorials here, okay, so how we can secure the SSL and how we can do the host of multi sites. Okay, you can go, okay, so for hosting a multi site. Okay, here we have seen, right, contest.com to fabricum.com, how we can do it. Let's say if you have a one site, okay, which is hosted on a VM, and another site which is hosted on a web app, okay, how to create them as a different backend pools and how to route the traffic. Maybe you can just test it. Okay, so to achieve it, okay, so here, okay, we have a detailed step by step procedure also. Okay, so here you might be creating certain two you know uh, backend pools. Okay, so if you see, they have created two backend pools here. So we can configure the two backend pools, and once done with it, okay, here we have to create a two different listeners also. How to do that? Okay, probably can go with this. All right. And similarly, okay, so you can go with the ingress controller add-on under the AKS cluster, maybe an AKS cluster level, okay, to route the traffic. Okay, so how to do it? Okay, maybe probably you can refer this document for see. So probably how to do it. Okay, so let's go with the deep step by step. Okay, so if I go back to these samples, okay, whenever I say certain documents, right, try to go through all these steps. So try to see what are the features, what are the things which are available. Okay, to manage, to restrict, to enable the additional firewall. Okay, using PowerShell, how to do it? You can go through these references. Right. In addition to that, okay, so when I go to the how to guide, okay, here you could see ingress for AKS, configure SSL, okay, redirect the traffic. Okay, so these things, okay, you can go through. And in addition to that, if I go to the references, okay, somewhere, okay, so ingress AKS annotation, okay, maybe you can go through it. When I go to the references, okay, here you could see certain additional things. When I go to the Stack Overflow also, so whereas here, okay, you will be given with a certain questions which are asked for the application gateway level. Okay, and you can see their answers as well. Okay, so this is something about pretty much about the application gateway. Let me come back here, and you could see here it is still getting created. Okay, this application gateway is also creating whenever you say something called gateway, that will take some time to create the resources. Okay, so let me go back to this resource book now, and in here, okay, so this is my application gateway. Here you could see the resource type. Okay, if at all if you wanted to see them as a group wise, okay, here on this particular type, okay, you can say group by type. So when I say group by type, here it will give the heading as a type, and it will list out all the list of resources. So probably if you have a multiple resources and if you wanted to see them as a group, okay, you can just choose it as a group by type, or maybe group by location or group by kind something. So here as a group by type, okay, application gateway I have one, disk I have a two, load balancer I have one, network interfaces I have two, and rest other I will be seeing. And coming to the public IPs here, okay, we have a VM related public IP, load balancer public IP, and application gateway public IP. Okay, we have a two VMs, one virtual network. Let me go to the application gateway, and here you could see it is still updating. That means okay, it is still creating it. And if once it is done, okay, you will be able to see the public IP here. And if at all if I wanted to access these two VMs, I have to use this particular public IP. And whatever the configurations we made, okay, let's say if I go to the configuration page here, okay, here you could see that this is something related to the what do you say, co- uh, pricing tag. And if at all if you have enabled any WAF, that is web application firewall, okay, so you can go, if at all if you haven't done and if you wanted to do it, you can go ahead and do it here. And okay, you can just enable it and you can just pass this particular details. For now I'm not going to do this. And in addition to that, if at all if you wanted to add any new backend pool after creating also, you can go here and you can add a new backend pool. Okay, so this particular HTTP settings also you can make it, and you can just have a configuration for your front end IP, and you can make some changes on a listener rules also and health probes. Okay, so we can monitor this particular backend health, like whatever the servers you have added a backend pool, right? So we need to, if at all if you wanted to check whether the servers are healthy or not, you can go ahead and monitor this particular page, that is backend health. It is in a failed state because it is still in creation mode, so that's why okay, it is giving as a failed. Okay, so let's allow this to create certain things. In the meantime, okay, we'll quickly go ahead and discuss about on certain things, that is traffic manager. So we have seen till yesterday, okay, routing the traffic to the multiple backend pool, okay, in a single region. Okay, if you see, okay, everything I have created yesterday within a Southeast Asia. But let's say, whereas if you have a requirement to route the traffic to the between multiple you know uh, regions, okay, so I can achieve it okay using this particular traffic manager. So let me quickly walk you through the traffic manager first. Let's say I would say Azure Traffic Manager docs. Okay, go to the traffic manager here, and you can go to the overview page, and here you could see Azure Traffic Manager is a DNS based traffic load balancer. Okay, so load balancer is works on a voice layer 4, which it simply distribute the incoming traffic to the healthy backend pool. Whereas application gateway works on a voice layer 7, which also distribute the traffic on a path basis to the backend pools. But whereas coming to the traffic manager, it is like a DNS based traffic load balancer. This service allows you to distribute the traffic to your public facing applications across the global Azure regions. Okay, let's say if you have an application in East US and one more application in, let's say, West US. Okay, if at all if you wanted to distribute the load, okay, according to certain conditions, okay, we can achieve it by using this particular traffic manager. Okay, how to do it? Okay, so maybe let me walk you through certain things here. Maybe if I go here, okay, how to create this particular traffic manager profile. Yeah, so here you could see, okay, this is the traffic manager symbol looks like. Let's say if I wanted to route my traffic to the east to US as well as west to US. So these are like web apps. Like we can also route the traffic to the VMs also. Like let's say uh, if you have a VMs or and on the top of VMs, if you have hosted any application, okay, we can do the traffic also based on certain conditions. Okay, so this is okay how they have created it. But to show you a demo, okay, I'll be using a virtual machines only, not the web apps. So here, let's say uh, not this one. We'll be creating certain conditions. Let's say I'll see you here itself. So this topic can be rooted upon the conditions. So this condition could be something like uh, geography, priority, and availability. Certain things we have. Okay, we'll see that. So, but on a high level, if at all, if you wanted to route the traffic to the multiple regions, okay, we'll be using the traffic manager, and it is a DNS based load balancer. Okay, and let's see, do we have any additional things here? Yeah, so I think this is the one geographic location. Okay, how to route the traffic and the geographic. Here you could see. Okay, this routing method, okay, we need to keep as a geographic. When I say geographic, if any users try to access some from east to east, by default traffic will be routed to the east to east, uh, endpoint. So here we'll be creating certain endpoints also. So instead of me telling, okay, let me go ahead and show you certain demos here for now for traffic manager also. I'll go back to the portal and let me quickly create a traffic manager here. I think it is taking too much time. I don't know why. It should not take this much of time. Okay, let's leave it here. So let me go back and create a traffic manager first. And here you could see traffic manager profile. And here you could see certain definition. Azure Traffic Manager is a DNS based traffic load balancer. Okay, so this also distribute the traffic to the public facing applications across the globe Azure region. So let me configure this particular traffic manager. And here, okay, so I need to give certain name. Let's say I'll give demo traffic. I'll just name it as a TF manager. And this name should be unique because okay, it is like kind of DNS based on this. Okay, traffic will be routed. So here, okay, in case of load balancer and application gateway, we are using a public IP, right? So here, okay, we'll be using this particular DNS for routing the traffic. And here, okay, so we have a routing methods. I was telling, right, based on these conditions, these routing methods, okay, we can route the traffic to the both the regions, let's say east to east and west to east. So first thing will be the performance. So when I say performance, let's say the application which is hosted on east to east, okay, is not performing well. By default the traffic will be routed back to the west to east. That is about performance. And coming to the weightage, so let's say on a east to east, if we have a 100 users are already accessing, and by default, okay, that traffic will be routed back to the west to east. And we can also keep the priority. So you can keep the priority as saying that always you can give the high priority for the east to east region, and by default, okay, the traffic will be routed back to the east to east only. Okay, whatever the priority high priority you give, okay, the traffic will be routed back to the specific region. And same thing like a geographic and multi-value and submit. Okay, so for now I'll go with the priority. I'll show you a demo on a priority for today, and we can choose the certain resource group. Let's say I wanted to use the same resource group since I'm creating a certain basic things here. And let me click on create. Okay, so here, okay, I'm trying to route the traffic in a multiple regions, right? Let's say here my VMs are in a part of same region. Okay, so if I go to the VMs here, okay, so VM1 and VM2 are in the same Southeast Asia. Okay, so I wanted to route the traffic to the different regions. Let's say I'll go to this VM here now, and I wanted to route the traffic to from Southeast Asia to West US also. Let's say I'll go ahead and enable this particular VM for now. Okay, I'll start this VM, and since I do not know the email ID, I mean username and password of this VM, I'll go ahead and do reset here. So once it is done, okay, I'll be able to do it. That means okay, VM has to be started. And what was this deployment? Okay, so let's wait for the starting this virtual machine, and it is done. And I'll come back here, and I'll restart this server, and I will enable a web server here to just show you the demo. I would say Azure user is the username, and I'll give certain random password. You know both the things, okay, we can reset the username as well as password at the same time. We can also reset the only password also. Okay, once it is done, I'll go ahead and enable a web server here. If at all sometimes if you wanted to do it, I can do it directly from this particular uh, run page. Okay, if at all if I wanted to run certain commands on a Windows on a virtual machine without login to the virtual machine, I can use this particular run command. Okay, which is available under operations. I can click on this particular run command. I can take the PowerShell window here. So as part of this PowerShell window, I can execute that particular command for enabling the web server. Let's say I'll go to the Azure Virtual Machine Docs, and from here I'll go back to the any one of the portal here, and I'll just simply copy that particular command for enabling the web server. So here, okay, instead of me log into the portal, I'll just put it here directly from here. Let me simply copy it and paste it here. I'm just installing a web server and let me click on run. So this will enable a web server directly in the server. I don't need to log into server. If at all, if I wanted to execute certain things, okay, here you could see this run command feature we have. And once it is done, okay, it will be display the output here. Okay, this time, okay, I'm not going to the inside the server and I'm just simply executing it. Okay, so this might take some time, okay, for enabling this web server also. So in the meantime, let me duplicate this window and I'll go back to the topic manager. Okay, let me go to the topic manager here, and here is my topic manager. And now, if at all, if I wanted to, route the traffic, okay, so I should be creating a certain endpoints here. Okay, so these endpoints I need to click on add, and here you could see, okay, Azure endpoints or external endpoints or nested endpoints. Okay, so we are going to create an Azure endpoints. So you can give certain name. Let's say I'll give Azure endpoint, and you need to target resource. Okay, we can give the cloud services. When I say cloud services, okay, it will take all the cloud related services. I can say app service. Okay, if at all, if you wanted to add as a target as a web apps, so I can also do the public IP address. Okay, so when I click on choose, okay, here I could see these many public IPs address, and here on the top it is saying that it cannot be associated with a traffic manager endpoint because this public IP should be having a DNS configured, because this particular traffic manager is a DNS based load balancing, right? So here, okay, for this particular public IP is okay, you should configure the DNS. Let's say I'll go back here. Okay, so let me go to the VMs itself here. Let's say if I go to the VM, I wanted to show you the demo to route the traffic to the VM1 and VM01 here. Okay, so let me go to the VM1, and for the VM1, whatever the IP I have it here. Let's say this is my public IP. So for this particular public IP, I should be having a DNS label. If I wanted to add this IP to the traffic manager. At this moment, okay, this DNS label was not enabled. So let's say I'll just name it as a VM1. Okay, this should be unique, and I'll click on save. Okay, same way, I'll go back to this another VM, that is like a VM01, and here also I'll go back to this particular public IP, and for this also, okay, I will enable a DNS label, that is VM01. I will name it. Okay, label is not available. Okay, it should be unique. Let's say I'll give VM01. Yes, it is available, and I'll click on save. I think I have given the same for the both, but they are in a different regions. That is fine. Okay, so now I have enabled the DNS label. I can go to the traffic manager now. Now, when I click on add public IP, so I should be able to see those, two public IPs. Let's say here I'll name it as a Azure endpoint and cloud services, and here I'll go with the public IP address. Let's say when I go with the cloud services, do I able to see nothing? Okay, so I'll give the public IP, and here as a public IP, okay, here it is giving me these three things now can be associated with a traffic manager. Okay, one was like application gateway public IP also we can give. Okay, so if at all if you wanted to route the traffic to the directly to the application gateway level things, and we can also give this particular two VMs. Let's say I'll give this VM, and for this, okay, I'm giving as a high priority. Okay, for the VM1, that means okay, so this particular VM1 I'm giving high priority, and let me click on add. So similarly, let me add one more endpoint here, and let's say I'll name it as a Azure endpoint 1, and here I'll choose the again public IP, and this time I'll give the different public IP, that is virtual VM 01, and I am giving the priority as a 2. So by default now if I try to access this particular traffic manager DNS profile, by default the traffic will be routed back to this particular first VM, that is VM01 at the VM-01. Okay, let me show you that now. Okay, if I take this particular DNS name and put it in a browser, and you'll be able to see by default, okay, traffic will be routed back to this VM. This is VM01. Okay, because here I have given a high priority. Okay, Let's say, let me try to change the priorities. Okay, I'll keep the priority as a 3 here. Okay, let me save it. And same way, okay, I'll give the priority for this as a 1. Okay, so same way, let me keep this as a 2 instead of 3. So now I made the changes. Okay, I gave the priority 1 for the VM01. Okay, if I come back and see, okay, VM-01 I have given as a high priority, and for the VM02, like only VM01, okay, that is VM1. Okay, I give the VM2 priority. Let's do that now. If I go back here, and this time, okay, it should be navigated to another web server. Okay, let me do refresh. This might take some time, okay, to reflect the changes. Okay, let me do refresh here. And I did not check, okay, whether that particular web server is enabled or not. So let's see here. First, let me check, okay, whether the web server is enabled or not for the another VM-01 for this one. Yeah, it is done. Here I could see the result. It is done. So let me try for this for VM itself. So it might not allow because, okay, we might not be having a port number enabled here. Let's see. Yeah, can you see here it is port number is not enabled. That's the reason, okay, we're not able to check it. So let me add a port number here, and I'll give the port number as HTTP, and let me click on add. So once that port number is added here, and I'll be able to see that VM-01 related web server, and this particular traffic will be routed back to the another web server. There I do not have any names here because I did not log into the VM and did not made any changes to the HTML page. Okay, so let's see. Okay, since just now we have added a port, right? So might take 1 or 2 minutes or less than that. Let me go back to the overview. Let me copy this IP again and put it here again. Yeah, can you see? I'm enable a web server, and this web server do not have any header here. Okay, so if I go back to this particular DNS label now, and since I have a high priority for this one, it should be routing the topic to the another one. Okay, let me close it here since it might be having certain cache here. That is the reason, okay, it is not giving the result. I'll go back to the traffic manager here, and I will choose this particular topic manager DNS name. I'll put it in a incognito window to give the exact results. Can you see now? It is routing the traffic to the another web server which is hosted on the different region. That is, let me go to the overview page. Okay, this is the VM which is hosted in a West US. Okay, let me get in here. Yeah, so which is hosted in a West US. Okay, I'm able to route the traffic to the West US as well by keeping the high priority. Okay, so this is how, okay, we can route the traffic to the both the regions by with the help of traffic manager. Okay, by using this particular DNS enable and upon the certain conditions. Okay, so this is pretty much about the traffic manager. And let's say if I change this priorities again, let's say I'll go back here, and I'll first I'll put the priority as 3 for this one. Can you please be on mute? Thanks. Okay, so let's say if I come back here and if I put the this particular VM1 as a priority 1, and this time by default that route traffic should be routing back to the another VM. Okay, so let me come back here and do a refresh. This time here, okay, I'll be getting as this is VM01 because I changed the priority. Let me close it. Let me try to give the priority 2 here instead of 3. And let me take this DNS label again. I'll open in a incorrect digit window. This time it should give the web server. This is VM01 because I changed the priority again. Okay, this is the advantage of a traffic manager to route the traffic to the multiple regions. Okay, so upon the conditions. Here the condition we kept it as a priority. Okay, if you wanted to change the routing method, you can go to the configuration. You can change it to any other weighted or performance or geographic, right? So this is pretty much about the very simple thing about the traffic manager. So let's see. We'll go ahead and check the application gateway. Is it done or not? Yeah, I think it is deployed, and we could see. Okay, it is already up and running. So let's copy this public IP of this particular application gateway, and I'll put it here. And by default, okay, so since we have added the same VM1 and VM2 as a backend pool, it should route the traffic to the both the VMs now. Can you see? This time, okay, it is routed the traffic to the VM1. If I do refresh, and traffic will be routed back to the VM2, VM1 and VM2. Okay, even application gateway also, we were able to test it successfully for routing the traffic. Okay, so these are the high level things. Okay, so how we can route the traffic in a different ways. In addition to that, okay, we also have one more topic, that is Azure Front Door. Okay, so let me quickly walk you through the steps here, and I want you to test it. Okay, do certain labs on Azure Front Door also. I would say Azure Front Door docs. I'll go back to the documentation, and if I go to the overview page, and Azure Front Door also will be majorly useful. Okay, to route the traffic. Okay, on a global level, same as like a traffic manager. But in addition to that, it will be having additional features to enable the security and having certain additional things. Let's say here you could see Azure Front Door is a global, scalable entry point that uses Microsoft Global Edge Network to create fast, secure, and widely scalable web application. Okay, with Azure Front Door, you can transform your global customer and enterprise applications into robust and high-performing, personalized, modern applications with the content that reach global audience through Azure. With the help of Azure Front Door also, whereas like we can do the traffic across the globe. Okay, so let's say if I hosted my application in Central India and East US, I can route the traffic, okay, but to the both the regions with irrespective of web app or VMSs or VMs or maybe anything. In addition to that, okay, so here we can enable a firewall also for this particular uh, Azure front end level also, but whereas it is not possible with the traffic manager. Okay, so here okay we can have SSL uploading and web application firewall features, okay, which are all okay, which are included in case of this particular Azure front door, which is not present with the traffic manager. And how to create it? Okay, you can go through the portal here. Okay, so let's say here, okay, this is the one of the example, whereas we are creating Azure Front Door. So when you create Azure Front Door, so this is how the a specific FQDN will be created, and whereas we can route the traffic to the different regions. So here you could see the example as a East to Central US as well as East US. And to do that, okay, what are the prerequisites that we needed? And you can go to this particular documentation page. I'll be sharing these, and okay, you can just create a this particular configuration while creating a Azure Front Door, like a front end IP and backend pools and routing methods. Same thing even for the Azure front door also with the different options. Okay, to show you a demos, okay, and a high level overview, let's say Azure load balance. Okay, so load balancer, application gateway, traffic manager, front door. Okay, if at all if I wanted to show me the differences, okay, I can go to the images here. I can take out this particular image. Okay, here you could see, okay, and what purposes, okay, we are using everything. So this is the traffic manager, and this is the Azure front door. Okay, Azure traffic manager, Azure front door majorly used whenever if you wanted to distribute the load to the two different regions. So here you could see region 1 as well as region 2. Okay, so in addition to that, let's say if at all if you wanted to have additional this thing, firewalls to be enabled and SSL uploading additional features to be happen, we will be using Azure front door. And as Azure front door backend pool, we can add a application gateways also. Here you could see they are routing the traffic to the application gateways first. Okay, and coming back to the within a region, we have application gateway and load balancer. Here, let's say to route the traffic to on a path basis. Okay, we are using an application gateway. Let's say here you could see something called images and other request. Okay, here we have a two backend pools. One backend pools are okay. They are requesting to the images. That is a one backend pool images are backend pool and a default server pool. Okay, to route the traffic on a path basis, and to have a WAF, that is web application firewall, we can enable on a application gateway level. And load balancer, okay, they're using as an internal load balancer to route the traffic to the database servers here. This is like an internal load balancer. So this is okay. You can just talk about the use case, and to talk about the high level differences of each and everything, I'll be sharing this blog. Maybe probably you can just go through on a high level. Okay, what are the things? Okay, what are the major differences for these three: load balancer, application? What are the things? Okay, what are the major differences for these three: load balancer, application gateway, traffic manager, and Azure Front Door? Okay, so this is about the high providing a high availability for your application for applications. Okay, using load balancing concepts. So we discussed it yesterday about also. I'll keep the load balancer at the end. Okay, these four different load balancing concepts. Okay, so to provide a high availability for your web application for routing the traffic to have a highly available application. Okay, so with this, okay, we are done with discussing about this particular load balancing concepts, and we are only pending up with the migration topic. So tomorrow I'll be starting with the migration, and tomorrow I'll give the high level overview about the migration, and I will give you certain demos for you, and I want you to do it. And if at all if you are not able to do it, and we'll have a one more session maybe on not Saturday. This Saturday I'm busy, so probably I'll take a final session tomorrow. If you have any labs you want me to perform, we'll cover it on Monday as a final day. Okay, so this is it pretty much about for today, and